Okay, so today we're doing Wednesday, May 6th. It's part of Phase 3, Week 2. We're covering 6.6a, add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers with no calculators. But every time we use a practical problem, that's a word problem, then we can use a calculator. Okay, first thing is where you need to write. So it said, did you know that subtraction is a shortcut? So this is the proper way to do math. We're always combining numbers. So -7 is being combined with +5. It's being combined with +13. It's being combined with -8. It's being combined with -4, which equals -1. So if this is the proper way we're supposed to write that, we are all lazy people, so we don't want to bother with all those parentheses. So what happened is all the mathematicians decided to agree that they know they are always combining numbers. So if they know they're always combining numbers, then they're not going to have to always do the plus and the parentheses. So if you took that out, you started with -7, and you're combining it with +5. So instead of saying plus +5, they just said plus. Instead of combining with a +13, so they changed it to +13. Instead of combining with -8, they turned it to -8. Instead of combining with -4, they turned it to -4. So now we have -7 plus 5 plus 13 minus 8 minus 4 equals -1. So when you're multiplying and dividing, it goes the same way. So our shortcut to helping us to remember this is that it's always in pairs. So here, what positive times a positive, there's no negatives here, so you cannot have a negative. Here you've got a negative here and a negative here, so you've got one there, your second one there. This has to be a positive because it cannot be another negative. If you have a positive and a negative, the negatives go in pairs, so if you've got one in the problem, you've got to have another one in the answer. Again, if you've got one in the problem and the other's a positive, if there's one in the problem, the other one has to be in the answer. So different clues we help us to use this is we can use the triangle. So if you've got positive, positive, you don't need the triangle. But if you're dealing with negatives, you're negative and a negative, you can cover up the two negatives and you're left with a positive. If you've got a positive and a negative, you cover up a positive and negative and your answer will be negative. Just like that, you can also use the tic-tac-toe method as long as your negatives go through the middle. That way everything else is a positive. So a positive and a positive equals a negative and a positive equals a positive, positive and negative equals a positive, a negative and a positive equals a positive. That works as long as you do not do any diagonals. And then the other way is if we use the Velcro couples. Remember our story with the Velcro couples is being a Velcro couple is not good because it's not good for you always to be with just the one person. You need to have friends. So two negatives, if it's multiplication or if it's division, you always have two negatives together. On here, when we're multiplying, these are also examples. Positive times negative, there's a negative here, so your other negative is here. 8 times 5 is 40. When you're dividing, you got a negative here and a negative here. So you already have your 2. So you have a positive answer. 12 divided by 3 is 4. On number 1, we've got a negative and a negative, so it's a positive. 3 times 4 is 12. We have a negative divided by a negative, so it's a positive. 36 divided by 6 is 6. Down here, -7 times 0, there's only one negative there. Your answer would have been negative. But 0 is not negative, so that's your only exception. We've got a negative here, and so our other negative is here. It's division. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Number 5, multiplication. We've got a negative here, so our other negative is there. 5 times 6 is 30. On the visual model, we start at the 0, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, and inside of each group, it's -2, -2, -2, -2. So we have 4 groups of -2. So 4 times -2, 4 groups of -2, which equals -2 combined with -2 combined with -2 combined with -2, or it could be -2 minus 2 minus 2 minus 2. Either way, you're always going to get -8. On your application example, each of your 6 friends owes you $5. So owes you $5 is -5, and you have 6 friends. So it's 6 times -5. So a positive times a negative is going to give you a negative in your answer. 6 times 5 is 30. So on the back, practice makes perfect. This is find the product or quotient, which means all of these are going to be multiplied and divided, but you still need to look. So first one, times, so a negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. Number 8, a positive times a negative, so you need another negative, so that's your second one. 7 times 3 is 21. Number 9, a 0 times anything is 0, so it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Number 10, a -5 times -7, a negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times 7 is 35. On the next one, a negative times a positive is a negative. 8 times 2 is 16. This one is tricky because the 2 is what's next to the parenthesis. The exponent is next to the parentheses, so you have 2 of the parentheses, so that's -5 times -5. Negative times negative is a positive. 5 times 5 is 25. Number 13, a 3 is next to the parenthesis, so it's -3 times -3 times -3. So we've got 1, 2, but then we've got a third one. So it's those two make a positive and a negative there, so you need a negative in your answer. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is -27. Number 14, we've got a negative and a negative, and then a positive. So we already have our 2 negatives, so our answer is going to be positive. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. Number 15, -16 divided by 4, so we've got 1 negative here. Number 15, we've got -16 divided by 4, so we've got 1 negative here, so your answer is going to be negative. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Number 16, you've got a negative divided by a negative, so you've got 2 negatives. Your answer is going to be positive. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Number 17, you've got a negative divided by a positive, so 1 negative there. Your answer is going to be negative. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Number 18, you've got a division. 1 negative, 2 negatives, so your answer is going to be positive. 20 divided by 10 is 2. Number 19, it says complete the multiplication or division equation. So negative, we've got a negative here and a negative here. So this is going to be a positive. And 15 divided by what equals 3? It's positive 5. 15 divided by 5 equals 3. Number 20, it's 45 divided by what equals -5. So we've got a negative here, so we need to have a second negative, so our answer is going to be negative. 45 divided by what equals 5? It's 9, so your answer is -9. Number 21, we are dividing, and we have a negative here. which means we need a second negative. So this is going to be a negative divided by a negative to give us a positive. So what divided by 20 is 5? That's going to be 100 divided by 20 is 5. On the next one, 22, we're multiplying. We have one negative there, so we need one negative as part of our answer. So 8 times what is 64? So we get 8. So your negative 8 is your answer. 23, we have a positive and a negative, so we need a second negative. So a negative times a negative is a positive. What times 9 is 27? We know that's going to be 3, so it's negative 3 is your answer. On 24, we have a negative and a negative. So we already have our two negatives, so we're going to need a positive. So 12 times what is 96? And that's going to be 8. So it's positive 8. Number 25, total owed. Each of your 8 friends owes you $10. So we've got 8 friends and owes $10. So this is going to be negative 10. And you have 8. So you have 8 friends and each is negative 10. So that's actually 1. And you're adding it to negative 10. And you're adding it to negative 10. 1, 2, 3. And so you need to keep going. 4, 5, 6, 7, till you have all 8 of your friends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that actually ends up being, the quick way to do that is 8 times negative 10 is going to be negative 80. On number 26, the temperature. The low temperatures for a week in Edinmont, Alberta are negative 15 degrees Celsius, negative 12 degrees Celsius, negative 10 degrees Celsius, negative 12 degrees Celsius, negative 18 degrees Celsius, negative 20 degrees Celsius, and negative 25 degrees Celsius. What is the mean low temperature for the week? Show your work. So if you recall, the mean is to find the average. So we need to add all of these up and then divide by how many we have. Okay, so we added them all up. Negative 15 plus negative 12 plus negative 10 plus negative 12 plus negative 18 plus negative 20 plus negative 25. They're all negatives. So on a number line, they would have just been coming over repeatedly. So we can just keep adding up all the numbers because it's always going to be negative. So it's negative 112 divided by how many you have. We've got 7 numbers up here. I counted to make sure we have 7 here. So 112 divided by 7 equals 16. 1 negative in the problem, 1 negative in the answer. So our average is negative 16 degrees Celsius. Number 27, Omar deposited a $900 check from his restaurant job and spent $100 on a silver necklace. What was the change in how much money Omar had? So he started with, he deposited $900, so he added $900 to his account. And he spent $100, so that's minus $100. So it's $800. So you've got more positives than negatives you're adding here. So again, on a number line, you would come over here to 900, and you would back up minus 100, and so you'd still be in the positive side. And then your difference. So it's 800 positive. Number 29, Eli took off in his helicopter from 1,300 feet above sea level. He later landed at a location 3,900 feet above sea level. Which integer represents Eli's change in altitude? So again, if this is sea level, would be at 0. And then if he took off from 1,300 feet, so he was up here, 1,300 feet, and he landed at 3,900 feet above, so it's 3,900. So you're finding the difference between these. So it's 3,900 minus 1,300 to find the difference, which is going to be 2,600 feet. On number 28, according to his bank statement, Brennan spent $3,000 on an antique iron bench. So he spent, that's negative 3,000. If Brennan's bank account started out with a balance of 500, so that's 5,000. So we have positive 500, so we have positive $5,000. We spend $3,000. So we're going to be left with $2,000. Number 30, Kira ended a hike at an elevation of 900 meters above sea level. She had started at an elevation of 200 meters below sea level. Remember, that doesn't mean she's in the water. It could be in a canyon. Which integer represents Kira's change in elevation? So if this is sea level, it would be 0. She above 900 above, and she ended at 200 meters below. So we need the distance between. So we're measuring distance, so either way it's going to be positive. So you can do 900 minus negative 200, which is going to give you 900, and the opposite of negative is a positive 200, equals 1,100 meters. Or you could look at it and say there's 200 meters here, there's 900 meters here, so 900 plus 200 is 1,100. Either way you do it, you're going to come up with 1,100 meters.